So can you see that the recording has started?
Yes.
Yes. So welcome everybody and welcome Sebastiaan Stiller from EPD International. And I will let you present yourself and what you're going to talk about. And I'm going to share your presentation. So let me know if there's any problem with the slides or when you want me to change the slide.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Anna, for this opportunity to talk to this interesting crowd of people willing to know more about environmental product declarations and why they are important. I think important to start off with is that it's rather ambitious to learn everything about EPD in 30 minutes. So I will have to take some shortcuts and focus on a few aspects of what the actual EPD is. So I will explain what it is. I also very clearly go through how you get to it and why it is important, but not last but not least also how we will respond to the changing environment that EPDs or say data-driven sustainability also for compliance is facing right now. So if you can switch to the next slide, Anna. So quickly, just to myself, my name is Sebastiaan Stiller. I'm the CEO, or in Swedish, the Verkställande Director of EPD International, and in that role now for roughly 3 years. But the company is much older, so it was founded in 1997 by the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency and industry, because industry was looking or seeking for an answer on how to declare in a credible way the environmental performance of their products and services. Then in 2014, the agency made a decision that they wanted to sell off the program. So the new owner became the NPO IVL, Swedish Environmental Research Institute, which is the single shareholder. And as that also the strong pillar in our work to make EPDs quality key. And as that, we also want to make those EPDs as accessible and affordable as possible to nowadays a global audience. Because what we do, we offer EPDs, so environmental product declaration services, according to the ISO standards, the relevant ones, of course, not only for LCA, but also for industries specific. And we do this with licensees. So if you can switch, next slide. I want to spend too much money on who we are, but really about what is the EPD and why. So if you now tick again, an EPD, an EPD is a document that declares in a transparent, objective, and comparable way the environmental performance or data of your products and services as a manufacturer. And we do this based upon a life cycle assessment. So an environmental declaration, according to the ISO standards that I mentioned earlier, ISO 14025, but a whole other bunch of relevant standards as well that define how to do LCA. In that sense, it's also a declaration, but it's not an eco label. So it's not telling you if a product is better or worse. We just declare the results of an LCA. Once you started working on lifecycle assessment, you will notice that lifecycle assessment or LCA or LCA method is very flexible, gives you a lot of room to play around with. But this flexibility also limits the way that the results can be made comparable. And for that, under the product declarations, under ISO 14025, we developed so-called product category rules. These product category rules is basically a cookbook for an LCA expert on how to conduct, according which rules, the LCA, so that the LCA results follow the same model, follow the same structure, so that the results become comparable. Another aspect of an EPD is that they are third-party verified. So this is a third-party verification process. And this is different from typically from eco labels, where also the verifier is connected to the label. We work with independent verifiers. The method itself, so PCR and everything around it, is also science-based. So we are very proud of that. And the document itself, the EPD, is a globally recognized document. These characteristics, as shown here in this slide, also have an impact on how you conduct the LCA in order to publish eventually an EPD in our system. So in case you want to get started for an EPD, you need to develop or select a PCR that is valid or relevant for your product category. With this cookbook, you go to your LCA experts. They can be in-house or outsourced, and they will conduct that LCA for you according to these PCR rules. These experts also typically then transfer these LCA results into an EPD format, because an EPD always has two documents. You have a very extensive LCA background report, which states the volumes bought of specific materials for your products from different suppliers. But this information, of course, you don't want to have laying out on the street. You don't want to share your recipes and your business sensitive information. So the EPD that's eventually being published is a document that is free of these kind of specific information. And that is the one that also will be made publicly available for free to the world via our system. But before you're that far, you will also have to go through a verification step, the third-party verification. Here we work with certified accredited bodies like Bureau Veritas, Danoske Verita, DNV, SGS, just name them, but also with independent verifiers. And they are approved by our system. So we quality control the verification step in very much detail. Once the verifier has approved the LCA background report and the public document, we get a signal that the manufacturer is ready to publish the EPDs. Not before that, your LCA document can be called an EPD, only when it's published and has a registration number with the program operator, in this case, International EPD System. So this is in short what an EPD is and how you get to what. It's a journey, typically, when we discuss with clients. And when you start embarking, you have a lot of contacts with us or with LC consultants, and to the point where you become more mature and can start thinking also about, now I have one EPD, but maybe I want to have more because my clients, my supply chain, or a regulator, as we'll see in a minute, is also asking for more and more about this specific information. Brings us to the next part, my next slide. Why is the EPD important? Well, if we take the perspective of the decision maker, so someone who is making use of your data, they, of course, are interested in working with environmental performance data of their products and services that they're either working with in the sense of an eco-design design stage, but also as a buyer in a tender, that these data are credible. That means fully verified, so you can trust what it states. That the data are comparable if you want to do a benchmark. And of course, that also this information is affordable. It comes at an affordable cost. What we see more and more also coming, and this is also partly why Nexer is also inviting us to have this the sessions together, is that these kind of data also needs to become accessible and also shareable, transferable in different kinds of representations. So not only in a PDF, but also in a digital space. And this is a little bit where we go in the last slide later. But if you can switch now. Slide. I brought this slide to you for different kinds of reasons for having an EPD, but I want to focus on the external drivers, and in particular on two external ones that are really driving the whole market right now. That's benchmarking purposes, but also market regulation. And I will start with benchmarking and then go to a little bit more into the market regulation. But when you talk about market regulation turning into future legal compliance, I want to give you some examples now quickly. So when we think about market regulation, in my world, this means voluntary reporting. So think about BREEAM, LEED, green building certification schemes that are requesting EPDs in case you want to have a global, a gold or a diamond standard. We also see an increased interest from so-called BIM software, so building information management software, but also thinking about the PIM that was mentioned earlier by Anna. You want to have a complete data set of a product that contains all information, including environmental performance of your product. I would say on the edge between voluntary and legal compliance is the green public procurement, because you can have private, but also, of course, public procurement tenders where EPDs are being requested. And the hardest in the sense of going into the policy or the legal compliance space is compliance with regulatory frameworks that are currently being developed. Here you have to think about, in the European Union, about the ESPR, so the Eco Design for Sustainable Products Regulation, which was a regulation, so valid for all member states in the future, as well as the currently under revision, the so-called construction product regulation that is important for all products in the market that have a CE mark, also for the construction products. I will not talk about the internal drivers, but in my next slide, I will give you an example of benchmarking. Next slide, please. And the reason here is like, why it's important? Because you want it. The data users, the users of your products and services, they want data to do a comparison. And what this slide is showing, I think, quite powerfully is that on the one hand, you have financial decisions on CapEx, OpEx, etc. But more and more in these decisions, also the environmental aspects are becoming starting to play an important role. So if it was okay 2 years or 3, 4, 5 years ago to actually compare a car on the costs, so you started looking at like, okay, is it expensive or not? And nowadays it actually, does it drink a lot of gasoline? So the OpEx and the CapEx discussions were on. And then of course you have a preference for a brand. But nowadays also people want to understand more and more what the single parts or the spare parts of a car actually, what kind of an impact that has on the environment when they do these kind of calculations. So another example here is like 2 EPDs that we have from a producer in our system. And they also allow their clients to make this an environmental conscious decision by making use of one of their options. So they, in the sense of insulation, for example, wool or polyurethane in that sense. Sorry for the my English here. But what it means in essence is that you as a manufacturer are also providing information to decision makers to make conscious decisions on the and how to minimize or limit the impact on environment when they take such decisions on which material to use. Next slide. The other topic that I wanted to touch upon quickly is also that the EPD is, like as I already indicated earlier, moving from a voluntary reporting into a more mandatory reporting in the sense of part of becoming part of a policy framework. So where we reckon that society itself is becoming more and more conscious about climate change and other topics, and they also want us or industry or society to find solutions how to stay within the agreed, political frameworks in the sense of the Paris Protocol, Paris Convention, etc., etc. But what we do see more and more is that these environmental issues are considered to be solved only with the active engagement of the business sector. A couple of years ago, it was like corporate is bad, but now we see them more and more as part of the solution. And this also resulted in the fact that more and more businesses are currently increasing their commitments in the sense that they sign up to different kinds of frameworks or initiatives. So you can think about the World Resources Institute or the Science Based Targets Initiative that is becoming more and more popular. But, and this is what is very important, business of course wants to know, because this is also part of investment decisions. And they also want to know which framework they can trust when they want to transparently communicate the impact of their products. So why I'm saying this is that, of course, in the green space, it's a lot about greenwashing and having these kind of accusations once you start reporting. What this also results into that we currently see 2 different level playing fields, I would call it. One is the private sector that is trying to find answers on credible reporting because they actually want to report or they want to show their activities on climate mitigation, conformities, etc., etc. On the other hand, we see as a growing playing field, or becoming, in the sense of level of importance, is the public sector. Because here the regulator is actually very interested in pushing for a green economy, but they want to do this also by making sure that we do this under fair market competition rules, so that we also avoid any kind of greenwashing. And on the last one, I have 2 more slides, so if you can continue. And this is one on the EU, also the European Commission's regulatory framework. So also here, how does the EPD, where does the EPD come into play? So we can see a lot of information here, but in essence and a lot of abbreviations, the ESPR, I already mentioned earlier, is the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. And this is an umbrella regulation that is replacing the eco-design regulation, but also the Sustainable Products Initiative. So this is something that was published or introduced in early 2022. And under this, or having an impact that one, also you have so-called industry-specific or sector-specific regulations. Think about the construction products regulation. And these, again, have an impact on different kinds of methods, policies, on both the European level, but also on member state level. And these, again, have a clear impact on other kind of activities. Think about the EU taxonomy, the EPD for sustainable buildings, but also for public procurement in buildings. So it all is interconnected, whereas few of us will play maybe or work more on national level. There is a whole framework coming into place, and that's also the next slide. Yes, thank you. Where we see at this very center of the picture on the right, the Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation. I mentioned earlier that this is the umbrella regulation. And what it means is that it actually steps in or comes into play as soon as there is no complementary specific rules for industries. And that's what the top left is showing, the Construction Products Regulation, the CPR, or for example, the Packaging Directive, the chemicals legislation around REACH, but also quite recently, the Batteries Regulation. In case there's no specific regulation in place, Eco-Design for Sustainable Products Regulation introduces new aspects that will become valid for not only a specific one, but for all other products in the future as well. So here, new requirements on product performance requirements from a green perspective, information requirements. The European Commission will introduce a digital product passport. So all information that is collected around a single product or material will also become digitally available, including environmental performance data. There will be new information on labeling, but also on the stopping of destruction of unsold goods, in the sense of making sure that we don't waste resources. Having said that, the digital product passport and the CPR, so the construction product regulation, are very important abbreviations, and therefore I want to quickly also explain that the declaration of performance will become a mandatory aspect under this digital product passport, so a mandatory requirement to report on. And in this DOP, under the CPR currently, this is the next slide. The regulator, so the European Commission, is now proposing to make climate change effects, so reporting on greenhouse gas, to become mandatory. So as soon as you have a product in the market that falls under the CPR and has to have a CE mark, you will be forced in the future. This is a proposal that's currently being discussed in the trilogue, but it's quite likely that this will come into place. You will have to start reporting GWP. Good thing though is that if you are looking in between the lines here and you're a little bit savvy with EPDs already as we speak, you see that these core indicators are also part of an EPD. So the EPD itself, as we speak, reports the core indicators that are listed here on the right-hand side, meaning you are already compliant as we speak in that sense. So the good news is the EPD is becoming an integral part of these regulatory frameworks. We don't know exactly how it's going to look like in the sense of how you have to report the data, but the methods and etc. and the results come from the EPD. Having said that, it also means that the regulator is forcing a lot of you as manufacturers also to produce much more EPDs, or say performance reporting as it is today. And for that, the next slide. We see one solution, a key aspect of the solution is digitalization. So all these data need to become digitally available, because the clear message is to the market or to the ecosystem that we can't go on as we do as of we speak today, by doing one single LCA for one product, which is not only very costly, you have costs of 30, 40, 50,000 euros upwards for a proper LCA. And we just can't just continue doing this the way we do it. So here, digitalization or tools, solutions will need to provide the solution to publish many EPDs. And this is the next slide, Anna. So here you see an ecosystem, how we currently see it and how it also will evolve, where we have at the center an organization, ABC, working with an LCA consultant. On the left-hand side with experts in LCA or in data management. Think about Nexer, but also about a company like traditional LCA consultants like Rumble, or software providers like EcoChain, MakerSite, etc., etc. This is just an example of a couple of those large actors that are actually developing also businesses around these kind of solutions. Nexer is at a stage where we can say that they are serious about also thinking about integral solutions, so not standalone solutions, but working with you as a manufacturer to work in an integrated environment. So what we here mean in the sense of no longer providing single LCAs, but also semi-automated or fully automated solutions that are part of a software system or ecosystem that the manufacturer works in when you're, for example, working in your plants. These data coming from either LCA softwares or these integrated solutions then also need to be transferred digitally to us, to the EPD portal, either as a verified or non-verified document. They can be pre-verified, so the data transfer is very simple, but there's also an opportunity in our EPD portal, in our marketplace, how I call it, to get your data then verified by our verifiers. So here again, think about the accredited certification bodies that we work with, or the individual verifiers. Once that data is verified, it becomes available in a digital format in the representation that our clients or your clients as a manufacturer want to have the information presented in. So think about ISO EPD or OpenEPD format, or in the future, when we listen to the European Commission, for example, the ISO 22257 for products in the construction sector that will have to follow that standard, so the product data templates. Via our system, of course, then we also push your results, the EPD results, to the regulator if they want. They can access it from our webpage, but also can ask for it via an API. A very important player here also to mention is EcoPlatform as an umbrella organization, who is not only offering EPDs from international EPD system, but also from our peer programs on a European, but also increasingly global scale. So here EcoPlatform currently provides the largest number of EPDs available in the market if you want to make use of that data. Having said that, EcoPlatform is then also a user of our API, but we have an API that you also can have access to directly to get the full EPDs, including EPDs that are non-construction materials when you work with the international EPD system.
So I can't find any more questions, but thank you for your answers, and I hope everybody has the information they need right now, at least. And if you feel that, and I'm talking to all the attendees now, if you feel that you want to know more about this process, how you work more in detail with EPD data and in general with product footprints on an environmental aspect, then we will have a follow-up webinar on footprint data management. where also somebody from EPD International will be attending to answer questions on EPD specifically. And but that we will run from a Nexer and a data-driven sustainability perspective, meaning how you work with product footprint data and why and what you have to think about and how you can start and so on. And if you want to be invited to this webinar and also similar webinars on data-driven sustainability, I recommend you to follow Nexer Data Management on LinkedIn, and we will post invitations and information about new upcoming webinars in this series this autumn. And by that, I want to thank everybody for joining, and not the least Sebastiaan for holding this really interesting and full of knowledge, even if it wasn't everything about EPD. I think we can say that it was all that you need to know about EPD for now, right? So thank you, everybody, and I hope to see you in our next webinar. And I will stop the recording now